man, I'm living aspiration. Cutting off heads, I'm straight with decapitation.
We're back with another video. And for this one, what I want to talk about is building great habits. So if you're somebody who's been in a rut, or you've had your goals but you've always struggled to stick with certain habits that you try to implement or make a necessary change, this video I want to talk about that. And it's based off of the book that I've been reading, which is called Atomic Habits by James Clear, which is a great book, and I'll have that in the description below. And it made me really want to talk about it today. So what I want to first of all say is that most of us share similar goals. The human collective, we all have pretty much the same goals, right? We all want to be successful, we all want a happy relationship, we want to have a good family unit, we want to be able to travel, etc. If I missed out on goals, but we all share similar goals that we want to reach. But the difference is the everyday, right? We always hear we all share the same 24 hours, which is true. We all do. And the things that we do every day is what differentiates us, right, from being able to reach our goals and holding ourselves back from getting those goals. And if you've been holding yourself back, hopefully some of the things that I'll talk about, the quick tips, will be able to help you out. And I'll give examples of my own life, but the main thing here, and there's so many things to talk about, but when you're trying to get to good habits, right, there's multiple things that we want to talk about. So the first one, what I want to talk about is being able to switch to a delayed gratification mindset and not an instant gratification mindset. And that's a hard one, right? Because our brain is literally wired for it to be instantly gratified, right? That's why we love being on social media. That's why we love playing video games. I love playing video games as well. There's a lot of things that we like to do instantly that a lot of times leads to bad things later on in life, or stops us from being able to do great things that we need to do on a day-to-day basis so we can reach our goals, right? So for example is the fact of, he gives these examples in the book, so I'm not going to take credit for all of this, but for example is somebody who wants to smoke, right? A lot of us already know that smoking is a bad thing, right? Let's say smoking cigarettes, we already know the long-term effects of the health, but because it doesn't instantly hit you, a lot of people still do it, right? They may feel stressed, or they're trying to feel relieved, and they like we do, we eat junk food, right? We know the long-term effects of junk food on our health, but we still do it anyway because instantly there's no effect on us, right? And it's not until the long term where you'll start to see these effects. So with fighting with the brain, right, what you have to do for yourself is switch to that delayed gratification, right? Kind of like farming, in a sense that your fruit doesn't bear fruit until the future. And today may not be, you still have to incorporate things that will get you to do these things today, but today is not going to bear that fruit. It takes time, it takes watering, it takes nurturing. If we're still comparing it to a farm, it takes nurturing that seed so that it can then turn into a tree that then bears the fruit of your labor. And switching to that part is not easy, right? It's not easy, and it's hard to make those changes with just saying, okay, I have to eat more, okay, I have to do this, okay, I have to do this, if you don't switch your identity. And the identity is the big part, because a lot of us hold on to these beliefs and these views that we have, this identity of who we are. So it makes us struggle to implement things that lead us to a positive place, to make positive changes in our life. And he touches on this in the book. So for example, if we're going to talk about the smoking thing that I brought up, let's say you offered somebody who was a smoker and is trying to quit, right? And I offer him the cigarette and he says, no, I'm trying to quit, right? This is number one. And the number two person says, no, I'm not a smoker. One person still identifies as being a smoker, so it feels like he's trying to quit, right? But he hasn't given up the identity that he's not a smoker anymore. He still attaches himself to the identity that he is a smoker, versus the one who said, no, I'm not a smoker, no longer identifies with that person anymore, this person of being a smoker, right? That is the past. It is no longer me. So it's easier for the person who doesn't identify now as a smoker to make choices that lead to where the person's trying to get to, because this person has changed their identity, versus the person who still identifies and is trying to make changes. It is harder for them to make those changes in the long term because they're still identifying as this person. So it feels like, it feels like a negative to them. Like I'm trying to quit, like I have to use a lot of willpower and things like that. Versus when you are this identity, right, you associate yourself as being this person. So it's easier for you to make these decisions. And that's just one example. But, when we're fighting with our brain, he says it in the book, there's 4 things that he'll mention if we're going to try to implement good habits and to beat this instantly gratified brain, right? Because our brain still hasn't caught up to modern times. Our modern times, all the positive things that we get are delayed, right? If you're saving for your retirement, if we're talking about financial advising, that takes time to get there. For your health, right? You have to exercise, you have to eat a certain way so that you can have those long-term effects. So our society rewards us for being delayed gratified, but our brain still works instantly. So what we have to do, number one, is make the bad habits that we're trying to conquer harder to do than the habits that are good for us, right? So one recent thing that I did, because I caught myself, because like I said, I love playing video games. And one of the things that I did was, for example, because when I get into playing again, right, I can get caught into that, okay, one more game, and that leads to another hour or so being on the game. But you unplug the game right now. You unplug the controller, put that somewhere else. Maybe you unplug the whole entire system that you're using. So when you do have to do that thing again, it's harder for you to do. Right now, it's a struggle. Oh, I have to go put this together. Oh, I have to go get it out of the closet and put this. Now you're making a bad habit harder for you to do. So it becomes easier for you to kick it. It doesn't take as much willpower. And you want to make the good habits easier. So maybe if you need more time in the morning so that you can start to eat a healthier breakfast, for example, maybe you set up the pots and pans already from the time that you wake up, that as soon as you walk into the kitchen, everything is there set up for you. So it saves you some time than trying to put everything together last minute. So, that's an example of trying to is making the good habits easier to do and then making the bad habits harder to do. And that leads into the next one, which is making good habits obvious and bad habits less obvious. So basically invisible. So what you can do, like I said, using the reference of making it easier, let's say you put that gaming system, I'm just using this, it could be good or bad depending on your whole situation. So don't look at it as just video games are bad. But if you wanted to stop playing video games so much, right, you can, like I said, you hide it in a closet. So now it's hidden, it's invisible. Because a lot of the times when we don't see it with our eyes, we kind of forget about it, right? And make the things that you want to do obvious. So maybe you put a book right on your bed. If you want to start reading before you go to bed at night, you want to make that a daily thing, you put that right on your bed. So as soon as you walk into the bedroom at night, you see the book there, it's right in your face. That's going to remind you to do these things. The third one is being able to make them attractive, right? Because like I said, our brain is instantly gratified. It wants things to be now. So what you have to do is make them more attractive to you in the current moment so that you can continuously do these things. Versus, a lot of times what we'll do things because we don't see the reward till later. We're just kind of like, I don't really care, right? Or if we do it, we don't have as much fun with it. It's not as attractive to us. Let's say, I'm using an example of playing video games, right? I can get hooked on that right then and there. So what you want to do is being able to make your good habits more attractive to you. So we have make it obvious, make it easy, make it attractive, and then making it attractive is also making it satisfying, right? You want to make, and they all kind of tie into each other here, right? So the bad habits, you want to make it unsatisfying to the point where you're just kind of like, okay, whatever. And you want to make your good habits more satisfying to you, right? Because like I said, instant gratification, the more satisfying it is to you at this very moment, the better it will be. So if you want to start eating healthier, right? look up some recipes where you can start making some nice healthy meals, so that now that you're tasting the food, it becomes fun to you, it becomes enjoyable. Now you want to eat better, right? And you finding recipes of food that tastes good to you, so it makes it easier, versus if you're just steaming broccoli, no season on the chicken, rice here, bland meal, it makes you not want to continue eating healthy. So you want to make these things satisfying to you in the short term. That way you can continue doing them in the long term. And a quote that he has said that's been sticking with me all day is that you want to fall in love with boredom. And this goes into a talk that I have with my brother, but we talked about this earlier in the year. And what people fail to realize is, and this goes into life in general, what people fail to realize is that, I don't think it's boredom, but it can get dull doing the same thing, having a routine, right? Doing the same thing over and over. You go to the gym. Sometimes the gym can be boring. Sometimes you don't want to go. But the difference between those that get successful and those that don't is being able to do those things every time. To keep doing these things even when it's not as fun to you, right? Because we see that all the time. Right, you get into something and it's exciting in the beginning, and then you keep going at it. It gets a little bit more challenging, and a lot of us fall off because it doesn't have that same appeal to us as it did when we first started picking it up. You'll see that a lot of times, right, with relationships, is the honeymoon phase when you're all over each other, right, and then it becomes a way of life, a day-to-day, daily activity, and then people start to fall off, right, because now it doesn't have that same fresh lust, that same appeal of, oh my God, this is something new. No, it takes work. It takes keeping at it. It takes sometimes you may not want to go to the gym, but you keep going. Sometimes you don't want to eat this meal, but you keep doing it. Sometimes you have your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whoever it may be, and you may not want to be around them certain times, but you still are committed to the relationship. And these things become fun to you. It becomes part of your identity, because seeing yourself stick with something is rewarding. There's a satisfying feeling to keep working at something. And, that's what I would say to y'all, passing it on from James, is that fall in love with boredom. Fall in love with holding yourself accountable to be a certain way. You're trying to reach this goal, hold yourself accountable to doing those things, right? If you said you're going to go to the gym 4 days a week, hold yourself accountable. Even if you're tired, even if you just had an argument, whatever it may be, still show up, right? Because a lot of times we get caught into, if I can't give it my all, there's nothing. We make it to extremes, and I'm a victim of this. I'm always extreme with things, right? But understanding that and Deed had told me this, is that sometimes with studying, right, it may not be an hour or 2 hours of study. Maybe this day it was 30 minutes. But the fact that you studied means more than the amount of time you did it. Sometimes it's just about showing up. If you can't give 100, sometimes 70 is okay. Sometimes 60 is okay, right? Because we're not always going to be at our best. We're not perfect. We're never going to be 100% on the money all the time. But the fact that we still show up, the fact that we still choose to perform, is what means the most to us. So, this is a quick video that I just wanted to do, just talking about being able to switch from the instant gratification mindset to the delayed, because that's what separates us in the long term. That's what helps us reap the rewards that we like. Like I said, none of us are truly different in what we want in our lives. We all want similar things. The difference is, what do we do every day to get there? And relating it to finance, like he does in the book, it's like compounding. It's the little things we do every day, right? Like if you check in your investments, short term, it may not look like much, but you give it 10 years, 20 years of compound interest, it can take off just like that. Life isn't linear. We always think it's always like this, but sometimes you can work at something, right? You doing your little 1% every day, 1% every day, the small things, right? And then it leads to one day just blowing up, right? So we just have to be able to stick with it, keep at it, even when we don't. I don't always want to do everything that I do. Sometimes I don't want to make a video. Sometimes I don't want to study. Sometimes I don't want to show up and do this. Sometimes I don't want to go to the gym. And I had a period of time recently that I stopped going to the gym, and it sucked, right? Because you hold yourself as this person, you have this identity, and you stop doing it. And And when you're used to doing something, once you stop doing it for a period of time, he says in the book, once you let 2 times go by where you don't do the thing that you want to do, right, you're forming a bad habit. So, you fall into this cycle of, okay, I'm not going to do it today. And then, okay, I don't do it the next day. And then that starts its own habit. So just breaking out of that and making sure that each day, that we're sticking with the small things that we need to do on a day-to-day basis to help us get to where we want to get to. And, that's what resonated with me today to talk about. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope they helped out. If not, let me know what you think about it. Let me know if you want certain things explained more, if you want me to go more into depth about things. Like I said, the book is called Atomic Habits by James Clear. If you've read it, let's talk about it. If you haven't, I'll have that in the description order. And, I definitely recommend giving it a read if you just want to be able to, learn how to adopt great habits and stick with them and get rid of bad habits. So, and be the best version of yourself, because at the end of the day, it's all about self-improvement. It's all about learning new ways, new techniques to make ourselves better. And that make our lives happier. So, have a good one, and I'll talk to y'all later.
Pray when it's time to ride, I never crash like Susie. Lyrics make you woozy, inspired by Juicy. The way to branch out is to kill all of these loose